The Wannabes, episode 17 of season 2. My name is JD.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Wasabi. How are you doing, JD? How have you been?
Good. We had a few minutes to catch up, but we mostly just wanted to tee up the pod, so we didn't really get into anything juicy yet. But things are going good, man. It's been a few weeks since the ADD diagnosis. I have to bring that up because it's been such a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just been a really sustainable, productive, good vibes kind of groove I've been kind of plugging along in.
Nice. Yeah. I'm excited for this week's conversation. When we were talking about the topics, it's gonna be pretty melee heavy with a lot on our mind. But before we get into all that good stuff, I know you had the big announcement, right? So do you want to start off with that and
Sure. Wow. I wasn't expecting to make it a big announcement, but I'm happy to.
announcement?
Yeah. Well,
Medium size.
it might be big, who knows?
Like a fast food medium, which is a large in every other country.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah. So I've been working steadily on a new podcast. It is everything except for Melee. It is literally anything I choose at that time. It's going to be pretty comedy-esque with probably some segments of just like patented rants and the earnestness. Just outside of Melee, it's going to be my outlet for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it Garlic Salt, or the Garlic Salt Variety Show. I haven't quite decided what the official...
It has like a nice ring to it, though.
I like
Big
it.
fan of garlic, too.
Yeah, well, my idea was that, you think of garlic salt, one, everyone loves garlic salt. It's delicious, right?
It's great. Salt and garlic, yes.
And the idea is, you could put it on anything, right? You could put that on some broccoli and you toss it with some oil in the oven for 10-15 minutes, or you could put it on a long marinated steak for 4 days, slow roast on over smoke, and really get the juices going with that. So it's metaphorically, I'm thinking I want to make something that, if I want to make a long comedy bit, well written with revisions, and that's my outlet for it, then that's available to me. If I just want to sit down after a walk where some idea hits me and I just want to figure it out on the spot and just talk for 5 minutes, that belongs as well. And it's going to be very segmented. So I got that content distribution ideas in the back of my head. So everything's going to be little clips already. So that's going to be probably a strategy. I'm going to take it seriously in terms of growth and marketing off the rip, because we've learned so much through this, right? Might as well do it correct from the start. It's going to be very collaborative, which I've been talking a lot more about. That's where I get so much of my joy, even doubles. I've been a huge doubles fan for a long time. It's just, if I could get someone in and maybe I write it and they perform it, that's that fills me up, And
that's hype.
Yeah, and there's going to be interviews too, but it's going to be chopped down. So I'm going to interview someone, get the good stuff, plug it in there as part of the episode, and then have it live maybe on $1 paywall on Patreon or something, the full interview. And yeah, kind of to round this all out, I used some of my work biz dev strategies that I've been working on, the sales type of strategy, and applied that to finding guests, where I identified a lead, what's my outreach, what's the pain point, not really that precise, but I have it on Excel. I've follow-ups planned and shit. And I got a really, really good guest. You probably don't know him. His name is actually Andrew Guest, funny enough. And and he's a TV writer, and he wrote for some really popular shows: Community, 30 Rock, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Dude, all of those are hilarious.
Yeah. Community is what inspired me to reach out to some TV writers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I had my interview with him last week, and it went great.
Oh, dude, that's sick.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why I'm like finally sitting here saying, okay, I'm ready to announce this project. It has legs. It's the first episode. I'm confident I could get it out May 1st. The goal is to have 2 episodes made before I release the first one. So I'll definitely fill you in on how that goes. And as it goes on, this is going to be a good outlet for me to like, funny enough, that's everything except for Melee. And I'll bring it back into the Melee podcast and be like, hold on, quick content update, because why not? So I'm jazzed, man. It's thanks to this new lease on life the past month, I felt like I can work towards a long-term goal. I know we're not to spoil anything here. Maybe we'll tease that me and you are cooking something up for the Wannabes that we're not.
Yeah. We're talking. We got some. We're past the idea phase, I think now.
Yeah.
We've fleshed out a lot.
Yep. So we're gonna start putting some work into that next month or so, and I just feel like I don't have that fear of like follow through that I used to have, because I always got excited about plans. You know this about me. I'm always the idea guy. I've always been like that, and that bit of delusion that was necessary for me to say ideas is kind of gone, because I know like a lot better now what I can execute on and what I can't. And a YouTube channel is not for me right now. I just don't have the capacity to do a bunch of video editing. But a podcast I can do. Because case in point,
you do it on a weekly basis. Yeah.
So it's just really exciting. I really hope I don't take time away from this. I hope it's just I could find other energy to contribute towards this new project rather than having to lend from something I really care about. And I'm confident in that too, but we'll keep an eye on it. That's my big announcement. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, dude, that's super exciting. I love the name also. Really easy logo to visualize also, so I'm excited to see what you cook up there.
Guess who's doing the logo? I'm sure you already know.
Doodle?
Yep.
Yeah, the shout outs. I mean, I love the thought behind it, considering we've talked about how much thought went into the logo that he made for me. So definitely shout outs to Doodle Dude, sir. Amazing artist, homie, and Melee player.
Yep.
Extraordinaire. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I love his art style a lot. So that's gonna be hype. Yep. And it's pretty clear cut, right? Like you say garlic salt, you kind of can go in several directions with it. And I think that's gonna be cool. Yeah, dude, that is super hype. I think with like, it's exciting to see you do more content stuff, because I know like that's always like what you wanted to do, but now it seems like you're actually like just like kind of taking action on it, which is really, really exciting. Yeah, I mean like it's interesting because I feel the opposite way, where I have a lot of content ideas, but I'm just trying to figure out which ones I actually want to set aside time to do, which is the tough thing, I think.
Yeah.
Right now, because I've been on a bit of a wave thanks to just like the loads of free time now, job searching and being unemployed.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I want to talk with you a little bit, give myself a break, and maybe take a bite out of this banana that's been sitting on my desk for an hour and a half. Because there's a ton of shit with you I want to talk about. So rather than, if this is cool, I know we talked about like one half, maybe.
Yeah, no, let's go.
Yes.
We've always been like kind of off the dome.
Yeah, exactly. But so you've been playing a shitload of Melee, and randomly I saw you in Homemade Waffles stream playing some good matches. So I want to just check in. How's it going, man? How's the grind?
It's good. It's been good. It's been frustrating at the same time. I think like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like it's a challenge. I'm like there's just a lot of stuff I have to work on in the game, but I think I'm getting better. I kind of had my first breakthrough last night actually, which is what I'm excited about. I think the toughest thing, like on top of making my life incredibly hard by switching to the box and stuff like that, which is fun, but I question my logic sometimes on it. But I want to stick with it. Is adjusting to like the West Coast players. I think like when I first moved and stuff like that, like, dude, I gotta say, New York, I get it now. I get it when people talk about New York and when people be like, yeah, like you're definitely from the East Coast. It's such a difference because there are times where I'm like, yeah, they're not gonna contest this. This is a dumb time to contest it, and I see a fucking Falcon Fox just run up at me and like blow me up, completely not random, but it seems random in my head in the moment, you know. And adjusting to the West Coast style has been very frustrating, but it's pushing me a lot more. And I think playing, especially, there's 3 players in mind that have fucked me up the most. I think actually in the last few weeks that are definitely on the top of my hit list at the moment. Out of respect, is Homemade Waffles, who has he's bought a book about me. He knows everything about me at this point. Uh, it showed even on his stream. He was like, "Yeah, Will stop doing this. Like, Will, you're gonna do this. All right." And then there's Dova, who is this super sick, arguably the best in Hawaii. He's a Falco, also ultra aggressive. Just the dude just wants to blow me up, honestly. And he's fucked me up sometimes where I even like end our practice session. Shouts to Andre for hooking us up together. But I come out of the practice session being like, going down pillars, like, how are you doing? I'm like, I lost to a Hawaiian bird. Don't talk to me right now. And then a Mexican Falcon player named Panther A, I believe, who's really good also, and he's like, again, balls to the wall. And so I'm just getting blown up by these when I'm like, okay, wait, like they're not gonna do anything. Like, oh, they're in the corner, they'll probably go side platform and I'll have to like coax them out of it, And then next thing I know, there's like a knee right into my face. So it's fucking frustrating. But it definitely got the fire going. And I've just been really just grinding. I think my tech skills improved a lot. I've been putting in like arguably 4 to 8 hours a day, maybe on Melee. Man. Just like, I think, yeah. Yeah, so I've been putting in just like a lot of work into it. And it's a lot of tech skill. It's a lot of just like playing people on the Melee online Discord, hitting people up, and really trying to figure it out. And I think I like the way I play, like inherently, but I just need to mix it up more and like just fine tune stuff and be a little bit more, hold my space a little bit better is the way I'm doing it. I don't think it necessarily needs to be like aggro, but I just need to hold my space better and not always pick the same option. And I think I rewatched like the 2-hour practice session that I did with Homemade Waffles 2 days ago, and I just kind of saw it, and he was also like calling me out on some stuff on stream, and it was pretty eye-opening. But yeah, I've just been kind of grinding. I've been studying up a lot and watching the game a lot, trying to think about that, mainly against Falco, just because top 2 of my hit list are both Falco players, being Dove and Homemade Waffles at the moment. And yeah, I think it's just like the fire's burning. But yeah, I played Dova yesterday, and it felt like for the first time I kind of like hit a state where I could like play quickly and like keep up to the speed and dictate the game and hit my whiff punishes, and everything kind of matched up together. But that was like weeks of just kind of like keeping the head down, grinding, working on some stuff, and like it's like small stuff too, like hitting shines out of shield, talking to the Fox Discord, asking for tips and stuff like that. Kind of really, but my ego was hurting a lot, and I think it all accumulated into like just like I think yesterday watching the SCL was probably like the best accumulation of it. I even put a tweet out where I was like, yeah, like what a relaxing Sunday looks like to me. Or I think I said like, when I tell my GF I want a relaxing Sunday, and it was like me watching SCL on my dual monitor. Like one screen is half SCL, the other is an Excel spreadsheet, and then the other screen is me doing some like solo research of like Fox knockdown percents, and really just trying to be better at like playing off of the certain percents and like knowing like, oh, okay, like this is when soft bear knocks down, this is when soft nair knocks down, like when does my game unlock in each iteration of the percent game, and really just trying to be a better player on this box. So I've been pushing myself a lot on it, but it's just, yeah, I mean, getting fucked up by West Coast players has been frustrating, because I think it's definitely, it feels different compared to East Coast players, especially when things still snowball pretty hard on the box, just like if you miss tech and stuff like that. But yeah, things are getting better. I guess I'm rambling right now, but I mean, I've just been putting in a lot of work into the game, so I haven't really been thinking about content or anything, and even to the point where I don't even I'm putting like all my effort on it. Like, I'm not even streaming. I haven't really streamed in the last like 2 weeks because I've kind of just wanted like the quiet solo practice sessions to really like kind of figure this out, because it felt like I hit a little bit of a wall against these players and also on the box as well.
Yeah, I hear you. And just to touch on that last point while you brought it up, the content and streaming thing, I think it should come secondary at the stage you're at least, because first off, like you've given yourself the platform and the room to do things that you want to do. If it comes up and it's like that's what you want to do, then you can do it, and it's positive and and great, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the best of cases, especially with, I mean, funny enough, the smash to get a job, I know we're not going to talk about your job search too much.
Yeah.
But that is like, okay, good content, also applicable to what you're doing right now. It's not like, so you don't reach into the pool of what would people like to watch. You're just expressing what is on and that's been your best stuff every single time. The Footsie's guide, the best, like one of the best videos you've ever made. It was like probably actually the gold
arguably
standard.
The best.
No,
I think this chapter 2 is arguably the best so far.
Well, you know, honestly, I would say compared to your skill, it would be second, because the Animal Crossing, top 20.
I forgot about that, because that's not on my channel. That's on our channel.
That was the best video ever made compared to your skill at the time, I would have to say.
Well, yeah, because I learned to video edit in a week.
That came out of nowhere. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Nowhere. Yeah,
that was so fun. That was so funny. But yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, right now you're not like making an arbitrary choice to play a ton of Melee. It's like you're following your heart and your situation, and you're getting really good. So as long as you're following that instinct to that leads into action, I don't think you should feel bad about not doing content. I know you're not saying you'd feel bad, but like, I hope you don't start to think, oh man, I really should be streaming more. I should be making YouTube videos, because that's all arbitrary, and it just matters that you're on like the path, whatever that is at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I don't feel too bad about it. I wish I could do both, but I think it's just like, I have to put ego aside and just be like, I'm just not at the level where I can have like even a quarter of my brain respond to like chat messages right now.
Well, you should do the Crush. Sorry, Crush didn't do this. The combo, whatever the hell his tag was when he quit, where you just make like a new Twitch account, no followers, and you just record for the VOD. And so you get your clips.
Because my computer has shit memory, so that's why I'm like, I was happy Waffles and Dovo were streaming at the same time, because I was like, oh sick, I could go to their stream and clips. I think if you go to Waffles' stream, there's actually 10 clips that just go example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from me that I've clipped, because I like complained, I vented to Drug Fox, and he was like, this is funny, but like my first inclination is, do you know why you're getting hit by it and like how to counter it? Like, it's specific, it's situation dependent. And so I like found 10 clips, and I made a Google Doc answering each That's one. So like, funny. This is what I need to do. Like, this is what I think. How is this thought process? like and sent it to him. I'm waiting for a reply because I just sent it this morning. But like
Jesus.
if you go to a Waffles stream, it goes like it's 10 clips of me just getting fucked up in neutral.
I would not put money against you making top 100 next year. Like this is getting a little insane. Good for you, but this is getting insane. So.
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think I have a lot to go for still, like in tournaments. Like I think that's the next step. Is just like 100%. I need to practice all of this in tournament, but the gameplay is getting there. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just like with SCL lately and just seeing such good melee. I think it's inspiring. Yeah, it's inspiring. I think like it's inspiring, but I think it's inspiring differently for the two of us.
Yeah,
like I get very tight about it and angry, and it's not like
wait, angry for who? What?
Just angry, like not like actual like anger, but like watching like Sunsei, Ginger, like Cody, like everyone besides Mango Zane pretty much play like insanely well at this game. Like there was a moment where like Ginger starts jabbing at 128%, and Squid commented on it being like, oh, that's when you can't SDI down Valko's jab. And I was like, God fucking damn it, like people are playing a game at like that level. Like who, like normally like when we play, like we don't care about like anything past 100%. We're just like hit them off stage and like kind of go from there. But like it's so frustrating how I think what I'm trying to say is it's so frustrating how much better they are, not just like as a player, but just like as a student. Like you have to like it's irritating how much respect I have for them, and it's irritating how much it's so doable if you put the time in.
Sure.
I think that's what I feel. So like once I heard like the 128%, I'm like, fuck, like I did, and I got to release this episode actually sometime, but like I did, I won the CLG coaching thing. And one thing that SFAT and Coach Bobby and PP were talking about was like, Coach Bobby was like, yeah, like SFAT, like when does soft nair knock down? And I was like, oh shit, like I know when hard nair knocks down, but like I like soft nair makes sense considering like half the time you're hitting a soft nair on a player. And I'm like, okay, like it's been like a month and a half, 2 months maybe, like let's just, and that's how I made that tweet. I was just like, fuck, like they're really just playing at that level. I just need to know that. And so like I went and I have like a Excel spreadsheet. So I just calculated all of the knockdowns for Fox, Falco, and Falcon, and then I need to do next the ASDI knockdowns and the true CC knockdowns. But like I just gotta be at that level.
We should make flashcards. I think it's like not like
Quizlets.
Honestly, yeah. Well, think about it this way: like there are very few things in Melee that have yes or no answers. Not percentages is like the thing, right?
Yeah.
That's because it's just the math.
It's when does something knock down and when does something kill, pretty much.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you have factors like DI and stuff, but you just account for that. Like optimal DI, no stale. When does up smash kill on Dreamland? Like, and then it has an answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could literally, holy fuck, because then if you have a match coming up, you just kind of like run through the flashcards real quick. You just like study up, you refresh your brain, and then the content is just making that and releasing it for every, like, hey foxes, here's a stack of 35 flashcards we made, a quick tweet, and we just give it out that way to all the foxmans out there. That's the content.
I mean, I can share with you this Google Doc. I already shared it with the Fox.
Let's crank it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, it dictates a lot. Like, it made such a big difference. I was getting like 3 stock, 2 stock by Dova to like, we're going even to like me taking games and me having a good run against him during our 2-hour session yesterday, because it was like it dictated like, okay, like 0%, I just gotta get like some loose bears in, I gotta get a shy knockdown or a grab, like okay, he's at 35, all right, like let's do late aerials now, because like soft aerials I'll just get like hit, and it dictates how you play the game.
Of course.
so much, and it made such a huge difference against him, like to a point where it went from me getting 2-stock, 3-stock every time to either even games or me 2-stocking or 3-stocking him, and he's an incredible player. I mean, it's you'll never be able to play him because he's in Hawaii, but like the dude is insanely good.
Word.
Like underground, like instant fan, honestly. And it's just like it made such a huge difference. So I want to get my run back against homemade waffles next too. But yeah, I think like it's just like I don't know, seeing top level play is inspiringly frustrating because it's so doable if you just put in the work for it.
Yeah, I think that's a key difference between where you and I are at in terms of our Melee careers. I mean, there's some factors that like, the job situation, you're really stepping into it. So that's a different, difference for us. But I think you could kind of pinpoint like how I feel watching this versus how you feel watching it. And I'm full on like, this better be a good spectator. Let's do some side bets. Let's like speculate on Twitter. Let's just have fun enjoying this great Melee. Watch. I got my old friend into it. Muscles Marinara, shout outs. So my original high school training partner, who's still quite good. Fun fact, he beat Captain Smuckers in PM in 2014, 2015, around that time. So pretty legit, this guy.
Yeah.
And so I got him back into it, and now like we were watching the SCL separately but at the same time. So that's the difference. I'm not looking at that as attainable in the near term. I think because you are, putting the work in and seeing the gains you're seeing, playing with these players with let's say higher Armada numbers, then what would that be now? A Zane number? Mango number is like too volatile.
I think the number age is gone. There's so much new blood now.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe what division you're playing at? If there's Division 2, then maybe you're playing in the Division 3 or Division 4 area. But
yeah,
whatever it may be, I think that's why you're feeling that fire. Is like, oh shit, this is not like, oh, maybe in a year or two I can reevaluate. It's like, what are these steps around for? I see the peak. I could see that first cloud just over this next horizon. Like, let's fucking get there. Like, that's what I'm reading from you right now, and that's inspiring. That's cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, SEL's been super cool. I mean, it's just crazy how like now that I'm in the Slippy wave and stuff like that, it's just crazy how many like good players you have access to also.
Yeah.
Like it's just insane. And I think the other thing about it is like and this is something that you were saying or you were alluding to about like you're just kind of doing your thing. Is actually I had a really interesting conversation with my psychiatrist.
Yes, let's get into that.
Yeah. So I have a main therapist who I've been with for like the last like almost a year now, but I got a psychiatrist for like the ADHD confirmation diagnosis and like medications, and we were just doing a check-in, and I was almost like like a lot of family stuff has been happening, and obviously the job search, which I'm still like doing and stuff like that, and I was like I'm kind of like burned out by like talking about that all the time, and so we ended up talking about Melee because that was just kind of what was on my mind, and the thing that I've been trying to figure out is like it's so crazy. It's so hard when you're trying to remember something from therapy because it hits a certain deepness. But
yeah,
essentially to summarize is like I tell these self stories to myself, even in the Cypher interview, and shout outs to Bono of Smash Mountain. Like I tell these story of like, like when I found Melee, like it was something that I really wanted to like make a go for, because I didn't want to be like the 5th best rower for a 4-person boat, right?
Sure.
And stuff like that. And I've been doing a lot of work about like trying to, it's almost been like that's been the sort of chip on my shoulder, like this sort of inadequacy that is rooted in a lot of stuff, both my family situation, how my parents parented me, and even not knowing that I had ADHD for until recently, right? And I think that sort of this, it's really about changing that story that you tell yourself, right? Like instead of telling myself like, yeah, like I've been the fifth best rower for a 4-person both, which kind of like it ups my level of being able to be a grinder, but it lowers my level of feeling like adequate enough, like enough. And I think I've been realizing that. And I was talking and I was like, yeah, like I am still really proud of like how hard I worked in crew and like the fact that I could row a 2K in under 7 minutes, that I could run a 5K in under 19 minutes and shit like that, like, and I think that like, I, that trickled into Melee, obviously, and Beerman was the first person that kind of like started tackling it even way before I got a therapist. But we got to the point where I'm like, I'm doing a lot of like self-healing now that I thought would happen once I hit there. Like I thought that there's a point in time, I think in like 2017, 2018, where I thought that like, look, if I say that I wanted to get top 100 and I reach top 100, that's when the kind of the healing will start, and it's something that no one will be able to take away from me. Like I said, I would do something. I reached the upper echelon and I wanted to push farther than top 100, like, but there would be like sort of a mental break from it, and I'm realizing now that like, you can do a lot of like the reparenting of yourself and self-healing, without that arbitrary external goal and result, really. And it led to the question of, God damn, I hate allergies. It led to the question of, why the fuck do I like still care so much about this game? If it's not for the external reason, if it's like, if we take away all the stuff that is Melee's given for me, like, yes, it taught me about myself. Yes, like I like learned how I learned, and that led to like me discovering that like about ADHD and stuff like that. I learned how to focus. It was, the first thing that I kind of like chose for myself that like wasn't dictated from my parents or anything. It was a little bit of a rebellion. It wasn't like you're going to be a doctor or, oh, do this because of X, and it can't, but it felt like I had to like still justify why I kept playing this game. And my psychiatrist like just blatantly said like, it's because it's like Melee is like just like you reliving your life as like a kid. Like you weren't, like, from what we talked about, like you weren't really allowed to like just play, for fun as a kid. Like everything you had to do was like for a reason, and it had to be justified. And so there wasn't anything, there were very little scenarios growing up where I was afforded the chance of just like doing shit because it was fun. Like even the books I read, like, I don't know, my mom gave me like Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, like when I was like in fucking 8th grade, like stuff like that.
Your mom
right?
did?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like always like, they want the best for me and that's how they parent. And it just wasn't the right way to parent me. But all that aside, I'm like, why do I still like cling on to this? And she's like, well, because like that's what your version of play is, like Melee and this like alternate, like not all, like alternate community ego. You can be a different person, you can be relaxed, you can just like play and have fun, and that's it. Like there's nothing more to it. I'm like, wait, there's nothing more to it than that? She's like, no. And I'm like, but then why do I feel like I need to like justify it? It's like, well, it's because you've internalized your trauma.
Wow.
Like, you've just internalized the shit that your parents have kind of like pushed into.
Boom.
So even if like they aren't saying anything, and even my mom now is like, yeah, like William plays video games, he does it, like it helps him, it's his like passionate hobby, like that's fine. I'm still putting pressure on myself to like justify it to myself. And the crazy thing about it, I know, crazy, and it doesn't end there. That's the reason I'm like still talking and ranting, is that I'm like, okay, but then why do I care about being good? Like, should I just like have fun playing the game or whatever? It's just like, and I'm like, but I'm like such a competitive asshole also. Like I'm just a competitive asshole. And she's like, because that's what's fun for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's the game.
Wait, that's it? She's like, yeah, like that's it. Like you're like, and I'm like, but like, so like me struggling, competing, putting in tournament, feeling the highs and lows, wanting to beat up on my friends, wanting JD to feel really bad after friendlies, like that's okay because it's fun. It's like, yeah, that's like you being a kid. That's you having fun. There's like no reason to justify it aside from you like to do X shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to wrestle with that a lot more, but I think before I felt like I had to like justify like why I wanted to get good, or oh, there's this story of Wasabi and inadequacy growing up and stuff like that, which, you know, I still hang on to, but I'm working on it and working on that self-healing. But I've been trying to think about it a little bit differently and telling myself a little bit differently. It's like, yeah, I just want to play the game because it's fun. And that's what I want to do in this moment. And that's probably why I've been putting like 4 to 8 hours a day on Melee, honestly. And but it's crazy because I think I've always felt like I had to like justify the reason, whether it was because I felt like I wanted to prove my past self wrong or to justify, you know, it's just like an internal demon. And it was just interesting hitting that nail on the head. I'm still wrestling with it, honestly. It was the first time that I'm like was brought to the concept of that, and so it's a lot to take in, but I'm starting with it, and I've just been leaning into it a little bit more and being like, yeah, like I just want to do what's fun, and that's why I've been just doing a lot of like solo practicing, off stream stuff,
right?
Playing one-on-one like long sessions with people and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I'll give you a little breather here. First off, sick rant. That might be a top 5 all time rants, not even just Wasabi rants. And man, if that doesn't hit the Wannabes like mantra of topics, if that's not like the holy topic of what we just talked about, I literally don't know. So if anyone out there is like, hey, you should listen to these guys, and they're like, why? Just send him that whatever, what 5-minute, 8-minute, because yes, dude, yes, like we are always confused as Melee players from time to time. Sometimes we're just in the flow, we just play, we don't question it. A lot of times, if you've been playing for 7-8 years, you're going to be questioning, like, why do I still play this stupid fucking game? And I am happy you're still talking openly about I have a meeting with my psychiatrist this week, I think. Therapists, too. Like, you need that outside perspective sometimes, because a Melee player would just be like, yo, Melee sick. And a parent will justify, my parents do the same thing. They'll justify it for you. And it's annoying because, like, I know personally, I've talked about this all the time about like the soft skills I learned and the hard skills I learned from Melee. You know, the community building and networking, great. The podcasting and content stuff, great. Learning how to learn, like that's 101 Melee. So that's there, but it's also like not what got us into the game, and it's not what makes me turn on net play when I have a meeting in 20 minutes and I don't want to do work until the meeting, that I'm just like cranking out a few friendlies before I have to go. Yeah. Like I'm not thinking, oh man, I can't wait to develop my soft skills and networking with this stupid like unranked Falcon. I'm just playing a game that I like, and it'll always be that. And that's like, it doesn't need to be justified, because things that are fun and hobbies don't need to be justified. What feels like it needs to be justified is how much time we're putting into these things. So I understand that when you are in this zone of putting, you know, multiple hours a day, that is frankly required to access a new level of the game. Like, I'm not going to be improving for these next month or so. As I'm looking at my chart of last week's Melee time, I played an hour last week. You know, I'm not going to get better, and that's fine, you know what I mean? But if you, in the position you're in, you want to improve, you want to push past the atrophy, the deterioration, atrophy of your skill, and actually improve, yeah, you got to clock some hours. That might feel like, okay, time to, maybe I need to be telling myself a story of like, you know, this is correct, even though fuck it, like, let's just be happy, you know what I mean? So dude, what a crunchy ass topic. You know, now that you've had a little bit of a breather for me to rant, do you have any closing thoughts on this? Because we will likely be touching it week after week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like it's interesting because the first level was like, oh, like I was using Melee like as a form of escapism. to avoid stuff like that. Like to the point where I even said, I think on Cypher's interview, like I'm like, yeah, like I'll be able to focus on my career once I hit top 100. And I didn't want to I wanted to do it in that order. And I know we've talked about it a lot like that. And partially that also came up, in the last few weeks too, where I was talking with my psychiatrist and it was like, hey, I feel like I'm like avoiding doing things and substituting it with Melee, and it feels weird. And she's like, yeah, like it's good that you're noticing it, but like I don't think like when you're like overdoing it also. It's just like overdoing it like is different from playing a lot, and they can overlap. Right? And I think I didn't understand that concept before because I was like, I was like, okay, cool. And then I applied to a few jobs. I got an interview on Wednesday, like I'm networking and shit, fingers crossed. But and that's all important. But I got all of that out of the way so that I could still play a shit ton of Melee, know? And that after that, it didn't feel like escapism and just trying to be kinder to myself about that. Yeah, I think I'm also just trying to accept like that. I think the other thing I'm still struggling with is just accepting definitely more a competitive asshole than most people and being fine with that.
Well, also. It's mostly internal, for the record. Like you don't, unless it's at a tournament where like, you're on the if there's a spectrum of looseness and Mango is the holy child of being loose, you're certainly more on that other side of the spectrum.
a little tighter, yeah.
It's not bad. It's still kind of funny. We'll see where it goes, and I'll keep an eye on it for you. How's that?
That sounds good. Well, funny you bring you up because the example I gave, well, I think it's like more so it's like, I've definitely told you among other friends, like being like, hey, I'm in tournament. I'm not going to really like hang out right now or, stuff like that. Even in friendlies, you're like, you want to smoke? And I'm like, no, I got to hit my tech chases, bro.
Yeah.
But I remember one time, it was last year, like maybe November, December, when I first got the box and I was putting in like those early hours. Mm-hmm. And you were talking and you said something really interesting. And I don't know if this was this might have been one of those moments that didn't mean a lot to you,
probably,
but meant a lot to me. Where you were like, "Yeah, man, like, yeah, like you're putting in work. Like, if you get top 100 and you're like 89 and I'm not like 90, 91, 92. Like, I don't know what I'll do." And in my head, I'm like, "Bitch, do you know how many hours I put into this game?" And I was like, and it's really funny because I think there's a part of myself that like doesn't accept that like that competitive nature is fun for me. And I'll never like put anyone down or anything like that. But I'm just hyper competitive. And that is what makes Melee ultra fun for me. And I think that like it shows. Like the fact that Homemade Waffles and Dova are like top 2 on my hit list and they don't even, shows that,
Yeah.
And I think that's like, it's just really funny. And I think I'm still wrestling with that acceptance of myself and the acceptance to just play Melee for fun and what fun looks like for me.
Well, yeah. And I think I want to talk about that because this is a topic I want to touch on too, because
let's switch it.
Because let's stay on it. Again, I'm tracking a lot of different things, right? And I'll talk about this briefly because it brings me back into Melee. So the thing I'm talking about, I think I put it on the podcast like 3 weeks ago. It's not a goal calendar. It's just tracking day to day a bunch of things. So down the line, nutrition, exercise, journal/music, podcast, career/finance, and then Melee. Right. So it's just, when I do something, clock it. Exercise half an hour, clock it. And I take a picture at the end of every week, erase it, brand new week. Right. I haven't done it today. Right. It's Monday. At some point today, I'm going to do that. Whatever. And Melee right now, it's at the bottom of the list. The order is arbitrary, but I do think subconsciously I put nutrition and exercise first because that is the most important to me right now, right?
Understandable. Super important.
And I think it's really great to hear where you're at in terms of improvement. And I'm going to make sure there's not a narrative coming out of this where like, oh, I don't care about Melee, I just care about content. You don't care about content, you just care about Melee, right?
No, it's a spectrum. We're all jumbled up in a mix.
Exactly. And so right now, and this is a topic I want to talk about, yes, I'm not playing a lot of Melee. I'm playing it when it's fun and watching an osmosis. I've always kind of been that type of player. So I'm not surprised that like, who knows when I'll catch up, but it's not going to be when my acceleration outpaces yours. That's just not what it's going to be. And I'm fine with that. But I do know that when the next major is going to come up, this was my epiphany today as I was racking my brain for topics. I am super ready for a like 2.5 month training arc, because I've done a 1 month training arc before, and that was 2 hours every morning when I was unemployed as like a college student over the summer, and I got quite good. That was when I got top 64 at SmashCon, like the second SmashCon or something. My best performance up to that date. No. I think you messaged me after that. That's when
I messaged you. I didn't know you, but you were an Upstate player, so I just showed my support.
Yeah. That felt really good, by the way. So funny how that ended up here, but
yeah, crazy.
So I know how I can benefit from condensed training, like the hate to call it a sprint, but let's think of it a different way. It's just like an athlete would be training for.
It's preseason.
Yeah, so I'm off season now.
Yeah, you're off season.
There you go. Perfect way to put it.
And I'm trying to be fucking Kobe on off season.
Well, yeah, you're doing. I saw the Michael Jordan documentary recently, and you're doing what he did off season, which was not stop, and not even slow down, but like just train different. Like if there was any sort of decrease, that was because he wasn't playing the game, so that he had to. It was still optimized for success, right? Which I think we both know you can't keep that up forever. So squeeze the juice while the fruit is ripe.
Because once I get a job, it's going to be a little bit different. And that was my frustration with the job as well. It's just not being able to play enough.
Exactly. Yeah. So that all adds up to like this huge burst from you. And then, so I'm adding an alternative to like what a training arc can look like, what improving at Melee at any level can look like. Because if you're inspired to play for as much as Will is playing, fucking go for it, man. Like, here's your permission right here. This guy in front of you has his life together, is playing that much Melee. And if you're more like me, where like the online tournaments aren't really doing it for you, and you still want to improve, but like you don't feel that drive quite yet, you don't feel the click coming up, then just think of it as the off season and, try to be fulfilled in other ways. I think I'd be taking this conversation a lot differently and maybe having some self-doubt and some ego stuff if I didn't have my other things that I'm really excited for and putting my grind towards,
Yeah.
And I think that's what it boils down to, is like, Melee's always gonna. I did 2 interviews, right? So one was with Andrew Guest, who I was super excited about. The other interview was a very good one too, but it was with an old friend, my first girlfriend's dad, who we had kept in touch with because he's a comedian, and he started doing stand-up at age 50.
Wow.
And one of the big takeaways about stand-up, and I think Melee applies, is like, it will always be there. There's no reason why you have to like insert yourself into the story of like SFAT's story or Mango when he started playing at 14 and going to tournaments, or Dreffen's story where you have to, you'll have to play for 15 years and just stay relevant the whole time. Like the game is there. And the story is irrelevant and shouldn't even matter to you, because like working towards it and feeling that fulfillment day to day that's when you like can go to sleep and think like, man, I crushed it today. Whether that's a new podcast logo that you looked through, or it was like your Excel for your follow-up charts percentage wise is looking pretty fresh. and I think it's really cool. We're both kind of in this groove, total opposites of the spectrum. And why I kind of don't want to play you in friendlies anymore. Although I still want to, because I need to feel what's going on with you. I can't just hear it secondhand.
Still do fine. You know how to push my buttons and trigger me really well. I think you know the anti Wassabi stuff.
I'm warm, I'm not going to give myself a coin flip anymore. I think that's off the table. But I'm giving myself like a D4. You know, I'm giving myself like...
No, you're still good. You're still super, super good. I think it just takes forever for you to warm up. That's the biggest
problem. Yeah.
It takes like 40 minutes, and then you have 5 minutes, and then Ash calls you about a dog. And I'm like, damn, JD was just getting hard.
Yeah, I took a mindless bite out of my banana, so excuse my full mouth. No, that's true.
To build off of that, though, I was going to say, like, I think it's interesting we're having this conversation now because also like we're talking about the same thing on different sides. Also, we're talking about an acceptance of like what is fun and like important to us like in the moment, and not feeling like influenced by others, external stuff. And you were mentioning like S-Fast story, Cody's story, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, Jeffren's story, right? And it's like we're kind of just living our own stories, which is obvious, but sometimes like we just need to say it out loud to remind us of it. But also like as someone who I talk to on more than a weekly basis, you know, like we're not even like, it's interesting because I think this might be the first time we're also not even trying to relate to each other's stories, because it's like I'm just doing my thing and you're doing your thing, and we're both really happy with it right now. And I think that's super good because that's what matters. Like I think I feel unapologetically happy that I'm putting this much time into the game right now, as much as you feel the same way.
But exactly the same sentence even. We're both happy with the amount of time we're putting in.
Unapologetically is the key word, I think.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think that's the super super big thing as we kind of are continuing to document our journey, and it is really cool. Quick side fact also is a pro Street Fighter 5 player, Momochi, was the youngest player in top 8 and made an incredible run at a Capcom event at age 35.
The youngest. Oh my god.
The youngest. It's crazy, dude. And so
wow.
Yeah. So I think it's just like it's interesting how we're kind of just doing our own thing, but this time we're not like actually like feeding off of each other. I think this feels like a very different conversation than even ones before, where like you'll say something and it hypes me up, and then I'll say something and it hypes you up. We're both like, I'm happy for you as a friend.
Yeah.
And you're killing it in the game, in whatever game you set that to be.
Yeah.
But I don't need to follow that at all. Also.
Yeah. It's almost like the horseshoe theory a little bit, where...
What's that? Elaborate.
So a horseshoe theory, it's kind of bullshit in the term of politics. They say that in politics there's a horseshoe theory where when you're on two sides of the spectrum, you're actually closer than if it was more something like this or something like this. So the two extremes are close. I think that's bullshit. But when we are...
from a political sense, bullshit.
Yeah, but I think there's some truth in, in this pretty specific scenario where because our similarities are the kind of higher level thinking of it, like the fulfillment level, the effort level, the forgiving ourselves and being unapologetic level, that even though we connected on Melee, that's how we became friends, it's what this podcast is about, we are so opposite, yet we're finding a ton of similarities, but maybe more similarities than we usually find. Because a lot of times me and you, the big appeal of talking to you is that we often are on different wavelengths, and we might intersect coincidentally on the day this might be just one of those coincidences where we're intersecting on this wavelength. Big part of it too, of course, is the ADD stuff. A big part of it too is quarantine. Is the light is getting brighter at the end of the tunnel. It's not. It doesn't seem like a fluke that things are getting better. It seems like the next major is going to be announced within the next couple months. I feel like the restrictions, at least in New York, I don't follow California, but the restrictions on bars today went back like an hour, like small things here or there. I'm one shot in the vaccine. Did you get a vaccine yet?
Yeah, no, I got it a little before you, so I'll be good by the 29th.
Good shit. Yeah, I'm getting the second shot on May 5th. Right. So like, I think it's tough to pinpoint what. I mean, Adderall's like half of it for sure, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly what all these factors are. I'm just hyped that like we're both catching this good vibe, and again, huge props to you for making the most out of the shitty situation, because you were just starting to adapt and then you got kind of fucked.
Dude, I got shadow run for a little bit. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so I mean, shit, man. Like, even if things on that front, like I kind of want to touch on work from my perspective, just as we round this out. I'll give it like maybe a minute or two before we hit that question, because we got a fire question on the horizon too.
I can give an update about that, and then I have
let's hit
one closing thought, and then I actually have a question for us that I generated myself, and then we can hit our community question. How does that sound?
Yeah, let's slam these.
All right. So first thing, actually let's do closing thoughts first, just to round out the conversation.
Yeah, I think I gave mine.
The one thing you mentioned also is just like the time, right? Like right now, like I feel like I just want to put in like ungodly hours into the game. But I've been really enjoying. I didn't realize that Mango started coaching Scar for fun, and then they were talking about at the latest Mango and Pals on Toph's channel, and I've been watching how Mango's coaching Scar, and it's really, really interesting, because I think that like, and I'm watching it because it's like, oh wow, yeah, like Mango is just like straight up a savant,
Yeah.
Like the way he thinks, and like he like is starting to be able to explain it, but like you don't. It's crazy. Anyway, I don't want to digress. But he told Scar really interestingly, like it's like, look, like you got a wife, you got a kid, you got a job, like you're not gonna be putting in like the hours that I can do, and he mirrored it to a scene in Rocky, right? Like you don't have time to do this. You don't have time to like learn frame data. Like you're playing 4 hours a week, So like what I want you to do is just do what you do best, like move really fast, stuff like that. And then like he just introduced like really simple solutions, and I'm like, damn, Mango would be like a really good coach. And it's like obvious, but it's like very different from a coach that you would think of like Drug Fox or Fiction, right? Because he was like, look, like you're nasty, you make reads, you need a little Wizzy in you, so like here's the rule. When you're playing 2 tech chases, then you can make a read. And it's like such a simple thing.
Wow.
That like I'm like, wow, that is like really brilliant coaching that doesn't like force the player to like completely change.
Yeah.
And it accounts for the player situation, which is it accounts that like Scar can put up max 4 hours a week of melee.
2 tech chases might be his max. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's like you don't need to push farther than that. And I think it's really interesting because it's like, when we talk about training arcs and stuff like that, it's like you sometimes think of it as like all encompassing, like what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Right. But it could also be like that. Like Scar's doing a little training arc himself, but it's like in the context of what he has capacity for. So I think that's really interesting.
Great. Great closing thought. Anything else? I think that's.
No, I think that was it for my closing thoughts. With the job update, it's going well. I'm still trying to figure it out. I've been doing a lot of research. I'm probably going to try to stay in operations right now. But I think the big thing I want to say is that like, it can't be my immediate step, and I've accepted that emotionally that it can't be my immediate step. But I think once I get settled and once I kind of feel like I'm stable and I can move forward a little bit more, like just stable financially and stuff like that, and used to the job after onboarding and stuff, I think I'm gonna make a go at really just becoming a therapist. Nice. I think that's the next big step for me.
Wow.
It's just it's frustrating, but it's just like, because, I have to figure out like what type of program I want to do, stuff like that. It can't be my immediate next step. Like I can't be unemployed and be like,
that's hard.
Okay, I'm going to like study for the GREs, apply to school, get in and stuff like that. I need something in between. So that's lessened kind of the emotional stress of finding the next thing, because it feels like I don't have to get it right at all, because like I still want it to be good and I still want it to build on the skills that I have, But it feels like the actual like big next step is probably going to be trying to be like a therapist, probably dealing with like trauma and childhood trauma and that sort of thing. The stuff that like has helped me a lot growing up. So like I think that's the big announcement, but it's not happening like within the next like 3-4 months probably.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes sense because all you need to become a therapist is time, money, commitment, and to want to do it. You don't need a past career in anything that relevant to change in that path. It just again takes a ton of time and some money and a ton of time, yeah. So that's all.
Keyword money, right? I mean, rent in California is crazy. So,
but yeah, man, don't throw away the whole your whole past career. You know, find something that works. Make sure the work-life balance is not killing you. And you know, you might not make fat stacks right away, but who cares? You're gonna be on the road to a really amazing career path. So good for you, man. Good luck and keep us in the loop.
Yeah, no, I will. Thank you so much about that. Yeah, and then now is my key thing actually.
Wait, I was gonna give an update on my job.
Yeah, give an update.
Thanks for asking, Will.
Sorry,
it's okay. It feels good to rant though, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely been in a ranting mood.
Good, probably. Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, I won't harp on it, but I do want to kind of give an update because I've complained about my job multiple times. I've given updates that were like hanging in there or like, man, not proud of my work. But I guess I could just bring up one point. I talked to my boss this morning about a whole host of things. It was before 9 o'clock for him. He like gave me a full hour to just one-on-one talk, and he's a very chill boss. He says his whole skin in the game is just his team, like the people he works with. So, and he really owns up to that. Like he cares about our careers and our satisfaction level and all that. But he had a lot of nice words to say, and I did two things. I, set myself up to speak honestly about how I've been doing the past month, which has been way better. Actually quite satisfying work, working pretty hard, but like not getting burnt out really. And finding a good balance, working with my new manager who she and I have worked together, but not in official capacity. So like that's just been seamless, her entry into her role as my kind of direct superior. And it's been fantastic working with her. Again, the Adderall stuff with the weather is just that vibe has been matched at my job. And truth be told, I need to only put in, I even admitted this. I'm like, hey man, my ideal scenario right now is like, I show up for like 3 to 4 hours every day, put in good work, and then am available if something comes up. Like, and he pretty much was like, great. Like that's all I expect. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome. That's hype.
Look,
let's fucking go. That's the best.
Yeah. So I he started mentioning like, hey man, like if you have aspirations to really like hit this level or go here in this company, you're in a good spot. Just put the time in and learn. And I was literally like, well, I do want to learn. I mean, I'm not trying to stay stagnant, but I told him like, look, this situation's working for me. So as long as like things go the way they're going, and just before this call, we got a hit on one of the brands that I reached out to. So we got some good momentum there. We're going to close it. We closed a deal last month. We're going to close another deal. So that's going well by the numbers. It was just really reassuring. The final thing was like, I told him straight up, I'm like, dude, I've been coasting to this point and I'm not proud of it. And I know that you've given me cover on that. I was like, look, I know you are fully aware of what I was putting up. And it was a non-issue. He literally was like,
that's amazing.
He literally was like, look, dude, like everyone this past year has been screwed over one way or the other. The upper management was changing. He took responsibility. Like, hey, I know it was hard because I didn't give you too much direction. I was figuring it out too. And
oh wow, very good manager,
dude. He's
a very good boss. Yeah. Self-awareness is important
for sure. And I'll put this out as the final thought. if you're in a job right now, if you're listening and you're not, in the career you want, if you want to be more creative or you want to get paid more, maybe you're like Will, you want to completely change fields, and you're in a job that has a good manager, I would just second guess departing right away, because good managers, good bosses, they make a huge difference. And you could be headhunted, you could be offered a cushy job with a ton of pay and all this stuff, and then you're put into a situation that is not good. Yeah, that they either
exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, so they either
I'm at right now.
Yeah, they either column A, run you into the ground, column B, fire you, or column C, both, aka Will.
Yep.
That's and it's hard to tell until it's too late. So if you have a boss that just really gets you and is pushing you, but understanding you, fuck man, you might want to stay there for a bit, and that's, I think that wraps up the work section pretty well.
Yeah.
Cool. You had a question for us, don't you?
Yeah. How are we on time?
No worries. Keep it rolling.
We're good. Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to highlight like two things of content that kind of impressed me this week.
Okay.
And then I wanted to ask if anything stood out to you also. So, first one, more work related, but it's a New York Times article actually. Really, really recommend reading. Super good. It was called "Don't Mistake Silent Endurance for Resilience," and it's a really interesting concept. And it was this person who, I think you would relate to it a lot, who was like working big time Hollywood, like helping comedians like get their start and become famous, and kind of managing them into becoming like a writer and stuff like that. And it was like kind of like this idea that like there's a difference between endurance and resilience. Like endurance is like never ending. It's the stuff that you do with your job because like or it's never ending, versus resilience is kind of like a rubber band where yeah, it sucks, but like I love other parts of it, so I'm gonna do it. And so it's like you're stretching, but then you like go back into like a normalcy period, right? Versus endurance, it's like it never goes back into that normal,
like
comfortable
like
period.
An accountant's tax season. They have to be resilient, but it's not all year. Something
yes,
like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it was talking about how this person, through the way they were growing up and like just like what they were like reinforced and like awarded as, or like like, oh, you're so good because you're X. They mistook enduring a lot of like discomfort, not liking aspects of their job and stuff like that, as resilient, as like their best trait. Not knowing that like there is like greener sides where like you can be resilient, and that can still be your like a good trait that you possess, but you can be like happy also, and you can like kind of pursue things that you want to, and it doesn't always have to be like super shitty. And I think it was such an interesting read, especially in the time period that we're in with the pandemic and struggling a lot. Like and Pilar, my girlfriend, and I were talking about this of like, we just like sometimes like we just get used to a situation, right? You just get used to something, and it's like you just endure it for like until like something really pushes you over the edge or something like that. Versus like resilience is like knowing something's bad, but knowing that there is like an end period to it as well. And that's like what she was like ultimately saying you should aim for, right? Like not everything's going to be perfect, but like there is an end period to like discomfort, and you shouldn't just like accept constant, never ending discomfort.
Well said.
Whether that's in a job situation or relationship or whatever. Again, Pilar and I are doing well. This is not like a relationship thing.
I understand.
But she just brought me the article, so I thought it was really interesting. And then last, Melee, dude, Squid the Cat's Falcon movement video.
Oh, I loved it. I watched it 3 times.
Nuts.
I watched it 3 times in a row.
We have not seen anything like that since Silent Wolf. There's just like a pure tech skill video. There was no combos. It was just movement, dude. The fact that he like traversed Yoshi's only off of edge cancel knees was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a lovely piece that just came out of nowhere. It was just plopped on my Reddit, and I'm like, I guess I'll watch it. And then, I watched it 3 times in a row. That was wonderful.
Yeah. I saw Doodle tweet it out, and I was like, oh, okay, it's like a Falcon thing. Like, I probably won't care too much. And I watched it this morning. I was like, holy shit, this thing is awesome. So, like, yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Squid the Cat, because
Yeah,
that video was super sick.
Squid the Cat already had a pretty good place in my should I click this radar. He's
Yeah.
given himself a few in a row that could be stinkers with that. Like the next three, if they suck, then I might reevaluate. But he's given himself a lot of
Yeah, you have immunity.
validity. Yeah, he's given him a three stinker immunity here.
That's funny.
Huge shout outs. Okay, word. So a piece of media or content this week. Okay. All right. I the first thing that comes to mind. Let me just keep racking my brain. Well, honestly, I've been playing a new mobile game, like a Clash of Clans-esque game that my buddy is into. It's Marvel Strike Force. So a lot of my like that's been replacing a lot of my like YouTube time, as just because you put in an hour and a half a day, you do your dailies, and then whatever. So that's been fun. But in terms of like media, Duncan Trussell, he's a podcaster and comedian who has a show called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. So it's pretty heavily, bringing in a guest, and they talk about very bizarre things like conspiracy theories. That's fun, but he's not like a conspiracy theorist. He just explores this weird stuff. I'm not a big Joe Rogan guy. I kind of don't like a ton of shit he does with platforming people, but he, let's say the parts of Joe Rogan that's like fun and harmless, he has a bit of that energy to him of like, let's talk about meditation. Let's have, an hour a week, whatever. I keep diving into him, but his show has been inspiring my new project, the Garlic Salt Project, where he will always open up the show with like a bit. So he'll do either a song or he'll do like an advertiser, a fake advertiser, and it's inspired me to like take that as an outlet for creative writing and comedy writing. And that inspired me to actually write a song that I'm going to be me and my dad, because my dad's a musician and a children's songwriter. So it's a comedy song masquerading as like a children's song that I sent to him, and we're going to be collaborating. So he's going to be playing the guitar and singing, and like he's going to be performing it. And it's like 2 verses and a chorus, like a minute long max. And that was like directly stolen from Duncan Trussell. So, sometimes you just, great artists steal, they should be stealing.
They yoink shit,
Yeah.
And that's sick. Well, new thing. I'll be sure to add these links to the channel and to Squid the Cat's video and to the New York Times article on our description. So
and I will not
check it out. Yeah, that will be my job.
I will not post the thing I talked about. Okay, so actually, you mentioned time. I think if we could answer this in 7 minutes, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, let's get it.
But
let's get it.
If you could pull up the question, that'd be great. Because
I can pull it up. Let me do it. So shout outs to S'more for asking this, and let's just get right into it. Right, big homie S'more, amazing Falco, getting really really good. And the question is, what is more important to you, being accepted or being understood?
Yeah. Well, I think everyone who read this question in the Discord, we all took a collective beat to admire it.
Yeah, goosebumps.
And, I want to avoid getting semantic, even though that's where my mind goes, because you could say there are small differences between the two, acceptance and understanding, because you want both.
Ideally, yeah.
And the Venn diagram is there's a pretty large middle area there, I think. But if we took the middle area out and you had to live in the world of either or, if someone understood me but did not accept me, I think that would be okay. I would assume that would be because we either they are not tolerant let's say they're ultra religious, and they looked at me as an atheist or outside of them. There are plenty of people like that I would never. We won't interact, so it's okay. At the same time, they wouldn't really understand me, would they? So it's difficult to navigate the question. I think acceptance is like you want understanding into acceptance. I'm trying to think of a scenario where you're accepted without being understood, but I guess that is blind unconditional love, right? So would you rather be loved unconditionally?
Ooh, I haven't thought about it like
that. Or truly understood by someone who doesn't accept you? I think it's honestly, I think it's pretty clear at that point. It's acceptance. What about you?
No, beautiful. I guess I'm thinking of it as, so my mind went somewhere differently with that. Because once you brought in blind unconditional love, that's I mean, nothing's better than that, you know?
Sure.
I think that's good. And again, like without, you know, obviously we aim for both, and as human beings, we deserve both too. I think that's important to say first of all. But for me, I think it's different, especially with my my upbringing. My gut answer was being understood is more important, and I think, you know, but I think that's just from my past experience. I mean, you know more than probably our viewers about like my family history and stuff like that, outside of like what I shared on Twitter and stuff like that. But you know, I think that like being understood is really more important for me, because I think like when you think about it as like a numbers game, and what I've experienced with life is that being accepted but misunderstood is really can really hurt someone, and it has hurt me as well, you know, coming from my family experience. You know, they love me and they accept me, but I don't really, it's been a lot of work to get them to actually understand me, and we're breaking through, and they're improving very slowly, but I have to be the parent in the situation. But I think that like I think for me, it's like it's a numbers game. Like there will be a community and people and partners and friends that will eventually both understand you and accept you, you know? And I think that like for me, I think the first step into finding that life, right? And I can say that confidently because I have a really wonderful relationship with Pilar, you know, and she's awesome. Is that, you know, I think understanding a person lasts is so important, because it's means that they are willing, it means that you don't have to change who you are. Like you don't have to feel bad about who you are as a person, or feel inadequate or change, you know. And I think I don't want to say be stubborn. So change maybe is a little harsh, but what I'm trying to get at is that like being understood and knowing like how you function as a human being is so, that's love to me, I think, more than anything else. And that's the funny thing, you know, is because it's like even us when we were talking, right? Like you understand me to a point where I felt really comfortable saying like, yeah, like the time where you're like, yeah, if you're, you know, 90 and I'm not 91, I don't know what I'll do. It'd be, you know, I felt comfortable telling you as a friend, being like, dude, like my reaction initially internally was like, do you know how much I practice?
Sure.
You know, is you know, I think that's really important, because it's just a numbers game of like finding the community that will accept you for who you are. And I think like the tricky part is that I think acceptance without being understood can be seen as a trap. In my head, I see it as a trap, because it feels so real, and yet you deserve so much more as an individual. And I think that's what I've experienced through my life, and so that's why my answer is understood.
I like that. I think just to round out, I guess.
Yeah.
What I was thinking is, well, first off, you know, I think understanding always comes first with new people, with new friends. Like, you know, they understand you even if it's not fully. And I think when we talk about being understood, obviously there's like different steps to being understood.
Of course, yeah.
As long as you have I would say the first priority for anyone who feels like they aren't understood. This is why therapy is great, because they're trained to understand people. Like that's literally their job, is like to listen and to figure out as much about a person as quickly as possible, and then obviously help. But the point of therapy is that they will understand you quicker than untrained people. So as long as I think if you have at least one person out there that understands you a lot, then other people not understanding you fully is okay. I guess that's the point. If like if your parents, and just based on what you're saying, I'll give my parents a little more credit than maybe your parents, but they're
fair.
that they did have more of a maybe a white person approach to understanding their kids.
Hey, yeah, that's fine. My parents are from the Philippines.
Yeah, these are all your words I'm taking here.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah, I think if my parents made a bit of more of an effort to understand me early on, and they probably accepted me the same amount your parents accept you. But I understand how it would feel if they were detached that early. So I really like our answers. If you had any closing thoughts, I think we should wrap it up with whatever you have to say.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely question. Thanks again, S'more, for asking it. We all love you in the Discord and stuff like that. Your Falco's sick, which is more important, as you stated.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's different for everyone, right? Like even our definition of the two terms are so different too, right?
Sure.
So there's so many nuances based on our personal experiences. So yeah, closing thoughts. Everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves both, and I think people should strive and be more stubborn about getting both, rather than taking one or the other, even if that's the question we had to ask or had to answer.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to kind of run through what would their answer be. It's a good thought process, which is what makes a good would you rather question. Yeah. S'morehead, we have understood your question and accepted it. Too bad we're going to cut it from the episode. It's a shame. It's past an hour, but this whole past section is gone. All right. Well, I have to pee. Will, this was great. We're going to talk about our secret project afterwards. So I'll see you in 3 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. See ya.